It's been a minute since I was last recording, and this is the continuation, and in fact almost the finale of the skirt fabric from the What to Do When the Warp is Longer Than the Room video. As you can see, my 4+ yards is almost entirely woven, and my back stick has just come up over the roller. This is significant in the action of weaving in a few different ways. When this is still just past the zenith of the roller, it means all of these yarns are sort of pinched by that pressure on the top of the roller. It means when I push this stick back, it can go on top of the roller and make it much easier to weave those threads. And in fact, what I'm probably going to do at this point is back it off just enough that I can get absolutely every last pick of weaving done while that is still below the horizon of the roller, basically. Because the difference in ease of weaving is so great. To show you, this is decently taut. Upshed. The top is nice and tight, but if you can see, there's some threads that need to be flattened down, which means they're going to catch on the boat shuttle. And then the downshed isn't as bad, but the edges get sloppy, and it's very easy to leave them behind. See, this piece in particular. This is the loosest thread, and I may be able to fiddle with it here. This is proving to be better than it has in the past, so I'm probably going to weave a little bit in hope I don't need to back it off, but we shall see. So for the purposes of this project, I have been weaving it where if my thread is on the right, my shuttle's on the right, it's going to be an upshed. That was not nearly as bad as I was afraid of. Let's see if downshed is better. My posture is different than many weavers. I have hypermobile joints. If you've ever heard of EDS or Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, I have something in that family of conditions. It means my hips like to go more splayed. I am more comfortable sitting tailor than I am in just about any other position. Okay, so that was really loose and a problem when it's on top. It's very easy to miss that thread. That's why I had to correct. Anyway, that means I'm sitting cross-legged. You can see the tip of my lap right here. Sorry about that. It's on a gooseneck that has a little bit of a bounce as opposed to a standard tripod. And it's heavy since I'm recording on a tablet. All right, so I'm sitting tailor style with my lap, my knees are right here, and I'm sitting cross-legged. And I find that very comfortable. So what I've done is I have a thing to rest this on. Now, for a while I was using an Amazon box because we have a lot of them. And then I realized I was frequently squishing the box or falling off of the edge of the box or what have you. So I happened to have this like micro sleeping bag for mediocre temperature abatement. Like, it doesn't do super freezing temperatures because it's very, very thin compared to the heavy duty ones, but it packs up really, really tiny and lives on my bookshelf behind me. So I saw it and I said, I'll try it. And it worked really well. So that's how that worked. All right. Again, this is almost sloppy loose, which is frustrating. And I'm also almost at the end of the bobbin, which with this yarn is not playing nicely. I love the bobbins, or rather, I love the shuttles. I'm discovering I vastly prefer to use paper quills or cut drinking straws, which are a cheaper alternative, as my bobbin to wind the yarn on. Because with these sort of bone-shaped shuttle bobbins, I'm finding when the yarn is unspooling from the middle, right now it's unspooling from right here, it's fine. When it's unspooling to the edge of the wide hole, it makes it catch a certain amount. For whatever reason, for the almost entirety of this weave, this side thread has been very floppy. What I'd been doing is pulling it over, which tightened it up. Can't do that anymore because of how close to the end I am. I will probably be able to weave up to about here, then I'll need to advance. And then this, because this is an Ashford, those plastic nail things that wrap around here only are about this long, which means it is not possible for the back stick to be much more forward than here. Which, if you don't do shenanigans with the heddle, means you can't weave any closer than the heddle, and usually a little bit before that. One of the tricks you can do when you get to the very, very tail end of a weave is put your shuttle in the back set and use up I haven't used it in the back with this rest, so I guess that's not going to work for that particular stage. That's fine. And down sheds, but note I'm all the way back here, which gets me about this much additional depth, which means I can at least weave to here. That means my lost weavable space will be about this long, which is far more acceptable than this long. That being said, it's still one of the few things I am not fond of about Ashfords, despite the fact that otherwise this has become my favorite of my rigid heddle herd. This is an Ashford knitter's loom, 20 inches, as espoused by Sarah Howard of Get Weaving. She loved hers so much that when I was looking for a secondary loom that wasn't too big but still big enough, I decided to give it a shot. I bought mine at Bountiful Spinning Fibers or Bountiful Fibers. I believe their website is Bountiful Spin Weave. I have had a lot of luck buying my equipment from her. Not my go-to source for yarn, but she's knowledgeable, friendly, and everything big purchase you buy comes with some manner of freebie. I bought this loom at the same price it was everywhere else, but hers came with the bag. I bought my floor loom, same price as everywhere else. Hers came with a free warping mill, which I have yet to set up, but it took a while for the warping mill to happen, but that was not her fault. It was the fact that Louette was at the time re-engineering it, so they were out of the old stock and hadn't quite finished the production line of the new stock. But I didn't need it. I still haven't used it yet, so I'm not in too much of a... It didn't hurt me to not have it, and I have a warping board. I really love ordering from her. Couple things I'm not as fond of. Sometimes her fonts are super tiny, and no matter how big you make the screen, it doesn't scale up the fonts. So it can be a little hard to read. There's mismatched organization. So if you click on rigid heddle looms, it will take you to rigid heddle looms, but then there's all of them, and they're not like separated by brand or anything. There's just a list of them. And when you want to buy the reeds, depending on which loom, it's not part of the named list, but it is that brand. So you got to get them from there, even though it doesn't look like you should. She's fixing it every time I mention something that's wonky. It's been addressed. So she's responsive and takes care of it. And as I said, she's been incredibly knowledgeable, good communications. One of the times I ordered something, there was a major weather, closed everything, snow apocalypse of some sort. So even the post office wasn't open. And she was incredibly apologetic and very kind. And things got to me when nature allowed. Not her fault. Another time, her inventory didn't match her listed inventory because it was stuff that she doesn't sell very often. And it was the tail end of the listed inventory, and it wasn't exactly accurate. So she was very apologetic, gave me in trade far more in value than I'd originally ordered the first time. So again, I've made 4 or 5 major purchases, and one of which was a floor loom, and several other smaller purchases, and she's been excellent even when things go awry, and genuinely takes care of her customers. I'm not getting paid anything to say that, but I'm really quite fond of Bountiful as a vendor. My yarn at this point has been coming from Eugene Textile Center, but they raised their rates. They used to be by more than $1 cheaper than elsewhere. They're not anymore. They're in fact not even the cheapest anymore. And they're a little bit far away, so the shipping takes longer. So they may not be my go-to moving forward, but they do have just about every color reliably, and that's excellent. I need to go wind another bobbin, but as you can see, I am almost near the end of this. I figured I'd tell you a little bit about favored vendors. You may have noticed over here there's a density issue. Based on how I sit and how my body is feeling. I have a tendency to beat stronger on one side than the other. If, say, some part of my shoulder or back muscles are hurting on one side, it throws off my beat. So my fell ends up being very diagonal. And there are times when I need to super squish or space to correct for the diagonalization, if that's a word, of my fell line. That being said, this being pearl cotton on the multi-strand Hobby Sultan Shadow warp means this slides very easily on the warp. So this is all going to come out in the wash. It will equalize and normalize as it gets beat up in the washing machine, which is what I'm going to do with it, because it's going to be a skirt, which means it needs to be washable. So if the fabric isn't washable, I'm not going to take the time to make it be a skirt. Because that's extra work for something that's going to be completely impractical. Since these are both cotton, I don't see that being a problem. I do know that I need to be aware of some shrinkage issues, and I will be washing it on at least medium heat, even though I generally do my clothing at not hot. My sheets and towels are hot, but my clothing tends to be not hot because I tend to have delicate fabrics like rayon. I want to wash this more aggressively than it will ever get washed when it's finished clothing. I hope that this is informative and helpful. I will keep weaving. I need to finish this off and warp this again for a demo I have in 6 days. And I need to do the same thing with my Erica loom, so you may get a video of me weaving on that device as well. Wish me luck. Thank you. Please like and subscribe. I'm happy you are joining me on my weaving adventures, and I appreciate any advice you have to share with me as I share my advice with you. Happy weaving. And happy holiday season in advance.